After narrowly escaping the undead forces near the Dark Queen's obelisk, Rose pushed herself to continue quickly through the woods. After nearly 24 hours of constant walking and running, she worried she might pass out with exhaustion. If it were not for Isidore, she no doubt would have collapsed. But any time she flagged or slowed, she looked down at her son and found more strength to keep going. Then, through the trees, she saw a glimpse of white stone.
It is the city wall. We're nearly there.
Forgetting her weariness, Rose picked up speed. She imagined what it would be like to reach the palace or even an inn, flop down onto the comfortable sheets of a soft bed and drift to sleep. But her dreams of a nice warm bed were soon dashed. She could hear soldiers moving outside the city's front gate. She dropped behind a bush. The place was swarming with hundreds of the Dark Queen's soldiers, undead and bandits alike. She watched as they placed siege ladders along the wall. The sinister troops began climbing up and over, undeterred by archers or swordsmen.
This does not look good. Has Elisaria already fallen?
She spied the front gate and saw a thick wall of ice now occupying the area where the large wooden doors normally stood. A massive horde of walking corpses pounded uselessly against the block of ice. Rose pondered the situation.
The ladders are too slow. They seek to break the enchanted ice. But why are they in such a hurry to get in? The city is conquered. What is the rush? Unless it is not yet conquered. All is not lost.
Rose felt a rush of hope surge through her. She glanced down at Isidore, and her hope was replaced with fear. His eyes were dark, his pudgy little hand outstretched. His fingers glowed purple with arcane power.
Isidore, what are you doing?
Let no obstacle stand in the way of her might.
Rose heard the sound of cracking ice. She looked back at the gate. Purple fractures appeared in the frozen block, growing larger and glowing brighter. Bronwyn's ice wall exploded into large shards. With the way clear, the Queen's reserve forces rushed inside the city to join their fellow soldiers. It was clear they were heading in the direction of the palace.
Isidore, what have you done?
She held the boy up to her face, but the darkness had left his eyes. He was himself again.
What happened? I felt itchy and hot and fell asleep, I think.
No, you did not nap. Isidore, listen to me. What I am about to say is very important. The scary woman, the one with the dark dress and dark hair.
Uh-huh.
She's put an evil inside of you.
She paused, struggling to find the words that would make things obvious to the child.
She makes you mean, very mean. But you mustn't be mean, you're a good boy, right?
Isidore nodded.
So the next time you feel itchy and hot, just tell yourself you are good.
I am good.
Yes, exactly.
She pulled him close and kissed the silvery hair on his head. Her eyes felt hot with oncoming tears. She would not let that wicked sorceress twist her son into a monster.
From atop the palace ramparts, Henry, Aldrich, and I, along with our fellow Elisarian soldiers, watched a surge of undead reinforcements rushing towards us. My ice barrier must have fallen. Aldrich cleaved the head off of a skeletal warrior and turned to me.
It was inevitable they would break through eventually.
I thought it would hold longer. A bandit leaped at me, but I struck him with my frozen sword. He turned to ice and shattered on the stone before me. Henry stepped up beside me.
At least the assault has been staggered. Were it not so, we might have been overwhelmed all at once. My king! My king!
Sir James, sweating and bleeding, ran towards us. His eyes were wide with alarm.
The southern gate to the palace has been breached, and the southern palace has been overrun.
I looked to the south and saw that the gardens I loved so much were now ablaze. Undead and bandits were pouring in, some carrying torches. My eyes searched the grounds until I saw the spot where I knew my secret chair resided, my hidden refuge in stressful times when I was the Queen of Elisaria. Fire, spreading quickly, soon consumed that section of the garden.
Have your men lead a countercharge. Retake the southern palace. What men! They are gone! Slain! They fight for her now!
I saw a madness in Sir James's expression. If the southern palace is gone, so be it, but we must not give in to panic. I saw a flash of movement and orange light behind the knight. A flaming arrow pierced his shoulder. I attempted to blast him with frigid wind to douse the fire, but the man had lost his mind. He ran, flailing as the fire climbed all around him until he was fully engulfed. He flung his burning body over the railing and into the writhing mass of rotted soldiers below. I grimaced at the sight and turned to speak with Henry, but as I did so, a familiar fog descended on me. I was having another vision. Once more I stood near a tombstone. A figure, clad in black, stooped low beside the grave. Taking this person for a mourner, I approached. Who do you mourn? Don't you know? The stooped figure rose suddenly to their full height and turned to face me. It was the Dark Queen. I stumbled back in shock. She cackled. You know who he is. You will not save him. I saw she held a crown in her hand, a king's crown. Soon his pathetic soul will fly away. That is, if I do not catch it fast. I have quite a collection. Would you like to see it? Supernatural darkness fell around me. The Dark Queen glowed with a pale blue light, and all around her, eyes were illuminated. Though it was faint, I could see the gaunt faces of Alan and Viscount Rothescue, Kaya, Old Duke Carriage, Grand Duke Bjorn, Haxon, and Sir Artemis. There were others, too. A sea of glowing blue eyes stretching as far as I could see. I shook my head. It is not true. Is it not? Did not your other vision come to pass? You do not have all these souls. I refuse to believe it. Whether you believe or not does not matter. The truth remains the same. Anyone who dies in my domain forfeits their soul to me. Beside the Queen, the tombstone had grown into a large obelisk, glowing with blue runes. The glowing light of the obelisk pulsed subtly, like a heartbeat, and I noticed the glowing eyes of the trapped souls dimmed and brightened in time with it. I hoped in my heart that Oscar and Cedrica would succeed in their quest. To destroy the obelisk would be to vanquish her necromantic power. I looked back at the Dark Queen and found she was now much closer. She loomed over me. Soon, I shall have the fairy tear in hand. I snapped out of my vision and felt myself falling forward before Henry and Aldrich grabbed hold of my arms. I had stepped off the inner ledge of the ramparts. In the time since the start of my vision, the Queen's forces had closed in considerably. Our unit of troops, who had previously only needed to worry about the onslaught of dead and bandits attacking our eastern section of the palace wall, were now flanked, having to fend off an attack from the south. Despite the direness of the situation, I felt I needed to get away to Aldrich's office. I had a vision. I must go check on the fairy tear. Henry stared at me with concern, but he nodded.
Go! We will cover your retreat!
I ran toward the eastern palace. I could hear the Queen's soldiers surge forward at the sight of me. But Henry, Aldrich, and our brave troops fended them off. I hoped desperately that Henry would not fall in my absence. Before long, I was at the palace door.
Rose watched the last of the Dark Queen's army run through the open gate to the city. Her heart sank with the knowledge that Elisaria's fate now seemed bleak. Worse still, her child had played some sinister role in orchestrating its demise. She knew it wasn't his fault. The darkness in him was likely far beyond his control. She cursed herself for bringing him here.
Why did I come here? I should have pushed on and found some other town far away.
She watched plumes of smoke rising from the direction of the palace and shook her head. She decided that, tired as she was, she would skirt around the city and take Isidore north. How far north she could not say. It would be a long and arduous journey, but she was willing to embark. The trek was short-lived. Rose only made it a few steps before a pair of strong hands caught hold of her shoulders and spun her around.
Reginald?
He gave her a wicked grin.
Oh, I hope you weren't planning on leaving us, Miss Rose.
Reginald, you are my friend, are you not? We were there for each other in the dungeon.
I do not have any friends, but I do have a queen, and she's been looking for you both, especially you.
He pointed at Isidore and touched the tip of his little nose with his grimy finger.
Don't take us back to that terrifying place, please.
There's no need for all that fussing. I wouldn't dream of taking you back there. Not now. She will meet us here, at the palace. Now go, get a move on.
Reginald threw Rose in front of him and kicked her so that she would start the long march through the gate and up toward the palace. The sky above crackled with dark energy.
I ran through the corridors of the Eastern Palace as fast as my feet could carry me. I needed to get to Aldrich's office. I already knew the Dark Queen had discovered the fairy tear's location, but my most recent vision filled me with fresh fear. She said she would have the stone soon. I hoped I was not already too late. I hurried up a flight of stairs, nearly tripping in my haste. I made it to the top and rounded the corner. The figure standing in the hallway caused me to stop at once. Gods no. There, standing 15 feet in front of me, head slumped to one side, armor dented and coated in dried blood, was Sir Artemis. He glowered at me with glowing blue eyes. Sir Artemis, please do not do this if you are in there at all. He craned his broken neck to the other side, continuing his cold stare. There was no look of recognition. Instead, he hefted his sword. I must get past you. Please step aside. He took a step toward me. Very well. I will release your soul, old friend, I swear it. I raised my sword, aimed it directly at the knight's chest, and sent out a stream of powerful ice magic. With impressive speed, Sir Artemis brought his shield before him. He slid several feet back from the force of the blast, but maintained his grip on the shield. Frozen blast of magic ended. I watched anxiously to see what damage I had done. The shield appeared to have frozen over, but Artemis was untouched. He cracked his sword against his shield, and a layer of ice merely slid off. It can't be. But I realized that a knight of his standing was not a stranger to magical items. This shield had almost certainly been warded and reinforced by the court sorcerer some time ago. My spells would be nearly ineffective against Sir Artemis. It would come down to swordsmanship. I adopted the fighting stance he taught me, and used my magic to form a shield of ice. He approached me, picking up speed. He brought his sword down, and I blocked the strike with my shield. We traded blows. I struck at his head, but he deflected the blow. He swiped at my leg, but I leapt back. I realized he was boxing me into a corner. I dove to the side and ducked under a sword swipe, and managed to avoid that trap. With his new, cursed life, he seemed to have regained the strength of his youth. But the giant had badly broken his body, so I was able to outmaneuver him. For the time being, we were evenly matched, but I was sure to tire in a sustained fight. He would not. The necromantic magic flowing through him would keep him going, even if the fight lasted a century.
Skylar paced around Aldrich's office. She could hear the combat raging all around the palace grounds. She knew it would only be a matter of time before more forces descended on this room. She had hoped they could relocate the fairy tier. But there had not been enough time before the battle started up again. Her eyes fell on Aldrich's fireplace. She ran to the mantel and examined the runes carved underneath it. Viscountess Martha Stormcloak stood nearby, her face awash with worry for Skylar and grief for her murdered husband.
What do you see? Runes. Queen Bronwyn told me about these. I can see where she damaged them with her sword. It was not enough. They're still functional. We must completely destroy them to be sure the Queen cannot come back through.
Skylar's hands crackled with power as she magically enhanced her strength. She tore into the wooden mantle. The wood splintered, and she got hold of large chunks, ripping them from the frame. But it was hard work. Each time she attacked the mantle, sparks of blue energy ignited.
Her dark magic protects it. I need your help. All right.
The Viscountess approached, her own hands glowing with arcana, albeit dimly. Together, mother and daughter destroyed the mantle. The area where the runes had been carved was especially challenging to demolish. Viscountess Stormcloak collapsed, weakened by the strain. Skylar persisted. Finally, she burst through the wooden structure. It exploded in a flash of blue light, its pieces clattering to the floor. Skylar rested against the wall, winded but relieved.
It is done.
She looked at her mother, struggling to get back up to her feet. It pained her to see the woman looking so feeble.
Mother, you must find another place in the palace to hide. I promised I would not leave you again. I know, but you are still weak from your time in the dungeon. It will not be safe for you here. Even as we speak, we lose precious time. Go, and hide before the Dark Queen's forces reach this part of the palace.
The sounds of battle outside drew her attention to the window. She turned back to her mother.
I've already lost my father. I cannot lose my mother too. Not when I have just found her.
The Viscountess looked on the verge of tears.
I will seek you out when the battle is won.
Skylar offered her mother a faint smile she hoped would be convincing. Viscountess Martha Stormcloak nodded.
You are right. I will go.
Skylar embraced her. The Viscountess wiped fresh tears away and hurried out of the room. The lines of Elisarian soldiers had broken. Men fought in disordered clusters scattered all around the palace grounds. It was a scene of pure chaos. But you would not know it, watching Aldrich and Henry fight. Though totally surrounded by undead soldiers, the two men fought back to back in perfect sync. Slashing, ducking, parrying, and then turning to face more enemies. Henry, to your right. Aldrich swiped and cleaved a rotted arm, which was preparing to stab Henry. Thank you. Yeah! At that same moment, Henry beheaded a rancid fiend who had grabbed hold of Aldrich. So it went, each man saving each other and working together until every one of the dead men which had surrounded them lay in pieces on the ground. The two men looked at each other and placed a weary arm on the other's shoulder. Henry gestured to the palace. To Bronwyn? Yes, to Bronwyn. They took off sprinting toward the eastern palace.
I raised my ice shield and blocked another of Sir Artemis's strikes. The body of the undead knight made ghastly noises as he moved. His bones creaked and snapped with each powerful swing. But in the course of our fight, I recognized a sort of pattern. The armor, tissue, and bones around his upper torso seemed the most damaged from the fatal blow the giant had struck. Each time before he raised his blade over his head, the bent pauldron around his shoulders screeched as metal scraped against metal. I listened to that sound. As soon as I heard it, I pointed my sword blade down and let out another blast of icy magic. With his sword overhead, he was not prepared to defend his legs, that were now frozen to the ground. He brought his sword down, but I had already raised my shield. The ice shield shattered, but it served its purpose. I stepped back. Sir Artemis flailed and swung at me, but his attacks were awkward. He yanked and twisted, but could not break free of the ice which held his feet in place. I looked down the hall. I could get past him now, but I had made a promise. I walked behind the knight, out of range of his strikes. I release your spirit. I slashed my sword across his neck. Sir Artemis's head tumbled forward and the blue glow in his eyes went out. I did not linger. for I could not bear to see my poor friend any longer. I hurried off again.
Reginald pushed Rose along the palace corridor. She clutched Isidore tightly, her arms aching from the effort, but she dared not put him down.
Almost there, Miss Rose. I am sure the Queen will be most pleased you return the boy to her.
There was a sudden swoosh and thud as a wooden crutch struck Reginald from behind. Liliana raised her crutch again and again, pounding Reginald's skull until he was almost certainly dead. She spit on his body, then replaced the now bloodied crutch under her shoulder. She looked at Isidore in Rose's arms and limped towards him.
Isidore! You're alive!
Auntie!
Liliana pulled both Isidore and Rose into a big hug. She let go and looked Rose in the eyes.
Thank you for saving him. Thank you for saving us.
They tensed at the sound of approaching footsteps, moving quickly. The three of them were standing near an intersection of corridors. This person was approaching from one of the other hallways. Liliana hefted her crutch again, ready to use it.
As I neared Aldrich's office, my pace increased. I was racing down the halls with such a singular focus that I almost tripped over myself when I reached an intersection of corridors and saw two figures standing on my right. But it wasn't two, it was three. Liliana, Rose, and little Isidore clinging tightly to his mother. But I didn't get the chance to finish my thought. Look out! She pointed behind me. Instinctively, I ducked and whirled around, thrusting my sword. The blade sunk into the chest of a bandit. He froze solid and then shattered as I removed my blade. I faced Rose again, preparing to thank her, but she grabbed me and wrapped me in her arms. Tears streamed down her face. I'm sorry. So sorry for all that I've done. I rubbed my hand on her shoulder reassuringly. I couldn't help but notice her hair had come back, but I did not care to ask her how. I know you can never forgive me, but I do forgive you, Rose. She pulled away from me, her teary eyes filled with shock. You do? I know now that not everything that occurred was your fault. You and I were both pawns in another's game. Her game. We stared at each other, two former queens of Elisaria. Though we could not be more different, we did not need to be enemies. We heard others approaching and turned. It was Henry and Aldrich. The surprise on their faces at seeing me and Rose together was obvious. I could see that they had so many questions. There is no time, we must go now. All of us rushed to Aldrich's office. I shouted to Skylar as we entered. Skylar, it is us. She had her hands raised, a fireball in each. She doused the flames on seeing us. I looked over at the wall covered in the icy barrier that Skylar and I had erected. Inside was the safe containing the fairy tear. I see the ice barrier has held up.
What happened to my fireplace?
The mantle had to be destroyed. The Dark Queen was using it as a doorway. Bronwyn's attempt to destroy the runes was not enough, so... She gestured to the damage. At least she cannot get in so easily. Do any of you hear that? We all quieted and listened. Henry looked round.
I do not hear anything.
I do. I heard a faint, almost imperceptible scratching sound. It's coming from outside the room. We opened the door and peered into the corridor. The sound was louder out here, It seemed to be coming from behind a door directly opposite Aldrich's office.
It is a storage closet.
We approached the door. Aldrich threw it open. The stench of burnt flesh hit us immediately. Sir James, or what was left of him, stood in the small storage closet, using the exposed bone of his finger to scratch runes into the wall. Skylar went pale. God, no! With one last stroke of his finger, the runes were completed, glowing blue, and suddenly the entire storage closet filled with blinding light. We backed up into Aldrich's office. In front of us, the tall, lithe form of the Dark Queen emerged from the newly made portal. The front door was locked. I hope you don't mind that I used a side entrance. She grinned. And now I'll have the stone, please. Your time is up. Hand it over. You cannot have it. It is mine by right. It was meant to be my gift.
It was you? You were my father's concubine, to whom the fairy tear was intended.
Yes, a concubine turned queen, like you. She shot a glance at Rose. I would have thought you'd be more sympathetic. We hurled spell, pelting her with everything we could. I attempted to freeze her legs. Skylar struck at her face with flames, and Aldrich and Henry slashed at her with their swords. Somehow she deflected everything. Though she was already powerful, she seemed to grow more as she neared where the stone was hidden. I generated a large chunk of ice the size of a small boulder, and used my magical force to send it flying toward her. The heavy block knocked her backward.
Well done, Bronwyn.
I glanced at him as a smile flashed across his face. For the briefest moment, he looked at me as he did in our youth, a crown prince filled with excitement and determination. He, Henry, and Skylar seized the opportunity to attack while the Queen was stunned. She was entirely on the defensive, and I thought I saw fear in her eyes. She had not expected all of us at once. She used her magic to form a shadowy sword, which she used to fend off the onslaught. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of Liliana and Rose crouching behind Aldrich's desk with Isidore. The Dark Queen saw them too. Enough of this. Isidore, take them out. No! Isidore's face took on an eerie calm as his eyes went dark. He raised his arms, and the room was thrown into absolute chaos. Furniture lifted off of the ground, as did we. We were thrown about the room. His power and the Dark Queen's threatened to bring down the room around us. I could hear the walls cracking. Rubble began to fall. I looked and saw that Skylar, Liliana, and Henry were stunned. A portion of the wall threatened to come down on them. I ran to their aid and held up the wall by freezing portions of it. The weight was immense, and it took all my concentration to keep it from falling. Good. Now, help me break the barrier. Help me get the fairy tear. Isidore turned, ready to aid his queen. But Rose, battered and bloody from being thrown across the room, crawled toward him. Isidore, remember what Mummy told you. He stared at her, his expression blank. You are good. You are good. Isidore twitched. The darkness in his eyes receded.
I am good. I am good.
He was back to himself. He waddled over to Rose, who held him tight. Fine. If you will not help me, then you are an obstacle to me. She pointed a finger at the child, her hand humming with raw power. You were always supposed to die. Dark energy exploded from her fingertip toward the child, but it did not reach him. Aldrich leapt into the way and held up his sword. The runes on the ancient sword glowed brightly as the weapon absorbed the dark energy. How dare you?
This is my kingdom, and you are not welcome!
Aldrich swung his sword, releasing all the power it had absorbed in one potent wave. No! Magical blast struck the queen fully and tumbled back into the wall, crumpling to the floor. This is not the end. She gasped and twitched, then went quiet. We all looked at one another in stunned disbelief. Skylar roused me and helped mend the broken wall. Rose pulled Liliana away. Henry got to his feet. Aldrich stared down at the broken necromancer, his father's concubine, and shook his head, then turned to me. He smiled, and I smiled back.
It is done.
The Dark Queen leapt up and plunged her shadowy sword into Aldrich's back. Its tip tore through the front of his armor.
Ah!
No! The Dark Queen cast his body aside. She was bloodied and wounded, but alive as ever. The fury of a dozen blizzards shot out of my hands, knocking the queen backward out of the room and into the corridor. Skylar and Henry rushed out to continue the fight. I dropped down beside Aldrich.
Bronwyn.
I'm here.
I am glad you are here.
You are strong, Aldrich. He grabbed hold of my hand and gripped it tight.
I always loved our time together. The highlight of my day was hearing about yours. All that you had done. Did you know that?
Yes.
I will make sure there is a nice dinner set for us both. A feast.
He coughed up blood. I gripped his hand tighter.
I will save your spot at the table. I will wait for you there.
That sounds lovely, Aldrich.
I am sure you will have so much to tell me.
He offered me his boyish smile once more. And then he was gone. The tears fell freely from my eyes. I leaned down and kissed him. The Aldrich I had fallen in love with so long ago was gone. The vision had come true. Aldrich lay dead in my arms, and yet I felt him stir. I stared down, a twinge of hope returning. A blue light, dim but growing brighter, appeared in his eyes. I shook my head. He would not become one of those vile things while I was here. Grabbing the dagger from his belt, I swiftly plunged it into his heart, which beat with the irregular rhythm of the undead. The blue light dimmed, and he went still again. It was hard to see through the tears I shed. I wanted to crawl into the earth, disappear, and forget the world. Such was the all-consuming despair I felt. But it would not bring him back. Fools, all of you. You cannot stop what is inevitable. Wiping the tears from my face, I gently released Aldrich, then stood to my feet. He was dead, while the woman who killed him still drew breath. I would change that. An icy chill shot through my body, the emotions inside me generating a surge of power. My despair would be my shield. My rage would be my weapon. I ran into the corridor to rejoin the fight. With a shadowy sword and glowing necrotic spells in one hand, she fended off Henry and Skylar's attacks. Her eyes narrowed as I sprinted toward her mouth curling into a sneer. That was a brief bereavement. I did not acknowledge her barbed words. Instead, I waved my arm in a small, circular pattern with increasing speed. The temperature in the corridor dropped rapidly as icicles formed above the Dark Queen. I swung my arm down in a fist, and on that action the icicles broke free of the ceiling and shot down toward the sorcerer. She dodged, stepping forward and back, but several of the icicles sliced at her skin. She winced. Seeing her momentary distraction, Henry swung his sword and grazed her side. Blood flowed from the wound. I thought back to the massacre outside the High Court, how the executioner's blade had cut through her like smoke, completely ineffective. Circumstances were different in this fight. The executioner did not possess magic. We did. The Dark Queen had grown cocky, used to wielding power over the powerless. That is why this battle was proving so difficult, and why fear crept into her expression. She ran down another corridor. We pursued. This new corridor was lined with several statues of kings long past. Skylar glanced at the statues. She pointed at them in quick succession, lightning flowing from her fingers. All four statues hummed with Skylar's power. They turned their heads towards the Dark Queen and stepped off their stony pedestals. They swung at her with heavy, carved swords. But their strikes were laborious. Their weight prevented them from moving with grace or speed. Cute. She dodged their strikes and felled them one by one with her shadowy saber. Her hands pulsed with alternating green and blue colors. As she raised them above her head, Henry charged toward her. But she was nimble, evading him with relative ease. Skylar wiped the sweat from her brow. Winded by the effort it took to bring the statues to life, I hurled more icy blasts at the Dark Queen. One of the spells struck her shoulder, blocking her arm in an awkward upward position and exposing her left side. Henry took advantage of the situation and sliced her again. He was about to take another swing when a strange noise sounded suddenly from behind a closed door down the hall.
It is coming from the hunting trophy room.
Since you tried to get a little help, it is only fair that I get some too. The door to the trophy room burst open. We were met with a harrowing sight. Heads of all manner of fearsome and deadly beasts had torn free of their mouths, and now flew toward us down the hall in a swarm with their teeth and tusks gnashing.
I will fight them. Focus on the Dark Queen.
Henry threw himself in the way of the swarm, cutting taxidermy heads in half, as bone and stuffing fell to the floor. I continued to attack the Dark Queen with bolts of frigid arcana, and she threw orbs of necrotic energy at me. Skylar, having regained her strength, lobbed fireballs. One of Skylar's spells went wide and struck a tapestry, which caught fire immediately, illuminating the space with bright orange light. Sorry. Henry, how you doing?
Good. Almost done.
The last one of the animal heads was sliced in two, its halves falling lifelessly upon the floor. The Dark Queen scowled at us. You will simply not relent, will you? She looked at the burning tapestry, a depiction of Elisaria and its past victories going up in flames. Her frown turned into a wicked grin. I told you Elisaria will burn. Henry patted the stone wall of the hallway.
But the stone does not catch fire. The palace still stands in opposition to you, as do we.
Let's fix that, shall we? I think it will look oh so much better as a pile of rubble. She touched her crown, breathing deep and drawing energy from the green and sapphire gems set within it. I raised my arm, prepared to cast another spell, but before I could, she plunged her hands into the bricks of the wall, as though they were made of mud. The foundation shook. She's bringing the place down. I will pry the fairy chair from its roots. The seams between the stone bricks glowed with blue and green energy.
Look out!
Henry shoved me and Skylar backward. All three of us tumbled out of the way as a huge section of the ceiling came down in the hallway, nearly obscuring our view of the vile sorceress. More of the structure above us threatened to fall, but before it did, I formed a small ball of solid ice and sent it hurtling through the gap in the rubble. It struck the Dark Queen in the head. Ugh! Her hands were wrenched from the stone wall, and she fell out of view.
We must go!
We scrambled to our feet and ran out of the corridor as it fully collapsed behind us. In the distance, we could hear other parts of the palace falling apart. I managed to stop her from casting the rest of the spell, but the damage to the structure must be already too severe. There's no telling how much will be destroyed. Do you think she's dead? We all gazed at the cloud of dust rising from the demolished corridor. We must assume she is not. Liliana, Rose, and Isidore emerged from Aldrich's office, shaking with fear. It was Liliana who spoke out. What is happening? The palace is no longer safe. The citizens taking shelter in the Western Palace must be evacuated immediately. You, Rose, and Isidore must go and ensure this happens.
You too, Skylar.
She whipped toward him, shocked. But I am needed here with you and Queen Bronwyn.
We will continue this fight.
Aldrich is already gone. The people cannot lose you both as well. They need leadership.
So lead them. Get them to safety. Ensure they live on. The lives of kings and queens are not of greater value than those of the commoners. They deserve to survive, and so do you.
Skylar looked at me. I glanced at Henry, moved by his statement. Despite the mistakes he made and the torment he put me through, he was, at his core, noble. I took his hand and turned back to Skylar. Go. That is an order from your sponsor. She nodded, forcing back tears. Very well. Let us hurry. Skylar and Liliana made their exit. Rose, carrying Isidore, stared at me a moment longer, then followed. Come, let you and I go back to Aldrich's office. She is sure to make her way there for the stone.
Agreed.
Skylar, Liliana, Rose, and Isidore, in coordination with Bronwyn's ladies-in-waiting Laura and Matilda, led the frightened citizens of the capital out of the Western Palace. Viscountess Martha Stormcloak walked near Skylar, proud of her daughter's bravery.
Look ahead. Do not slow down.
Families made their way past fallen husbands and sons. Wives and mothers cried out in sorrow, but no one dared slow down. Bandits and undead forces ran amok on the palace grounds, and more than once Skylar had to dispatch foes with powerful lightning blasts or fireballs. They soon reached the palace's western gate and passed through into the city proper. Though the city was much destroyed, the forces of evil were scattered and small in number in this part of the city, making the journey down toward the outer gate less treacherous than Skylar had feared. Isidore twisted and convulsed in Rose's arms, mumbling to himself,
I am good. She will not be opposed. I am good. Do not defy her will.
Rosa's heart ached.
As long as the Dark Queen lives, the wickedness shall always be inside him. Rose, what are you doing? Take him. Watch after him until I return. Where are you going? If the Dark Queen doesn't fall, Isidore will be lost. I have to do something good for him. I have to be the mother he needs and protect him. I'm going back. There must be something I can do. Please, watch him if I don't return. We could feel dark energy swirling all around us. She's coming. The window beside us exploded. We shielded ourselves from the shards, and when we looked again, the Dark Queen stood before us. Just the three of us, then. Good. More intimate. I like that. She launched a fresh series of attacks. The onslaught was immediate and fierce. We struggled to keep up. I made sure to stand between the sinister woman and the wall of ice that protected the fairy tear she wanted so dearly. I summoned more icicles. This time they jutted up from the floor, stabbing at the Dark Queen from below. She leapt and flipped through the air, avoiding the attack completely. You grow tired. Slow. As much as I wanted to shout and deny it, I found I was too winded to do so. She was right. We were growing weary.
Skylar, Liliana, Laura, and Matilda opened the gate along the city's western wall. They led the citizens out of the city into the woods. Liliana smiled.
We have made it.
Blue eyes illuminated from underneath the shady boughs of the trees. Wolves, foxes, weasels, wildcats, boars, and all manner of other undead creatures stalked toward the unprepared people. Skylar stepped forward, thoroughly exhausted. She waved her hand and generated a wall of purple arcana.
That will hold them at bay.
The wall of magic flickered. Skylar slumped to the floor, her energy nearly all spent. Viscountess Stormcloak attended to her. Liliana watched the flickering magic.
Yes, it will hold them, but for how long?
The animals crept right up to the glowing wall, watching and waiting patiently.
I sent a blizzard of cold whooshing toward the dark sorceress around Aldrich's office. She crossed her arms, and a green aura shielded her from the icy effect. Henry advanced, executing his usual tactic of striking while the Dark Queen was distracted. This time, however, she was prepared. She parried his attack with her dark sword, and followed up by sending a green orb of necrotic energy into his chest plate. Henry soared backward through the air, striking the wall hard. His armor rusted and corroded as the necrotic energy aged it rapidly. I knew the compromised metal could not sustain another direct hit to the chest, but Henry was out cold. And now it is just us girls. She dismissed the shadowy blade into a cloud of smoke, then stooped down to pick up Aldrich's sword. Rage rushed through me again. Don't you touch that! Fast-moving, frozen winds whipped around me, down my arms, and pulled the Dark Queen with deadly force. I had fallen right into her trap. She held Aldrich's sword out, and the runes glowed. It absorbed the full force of my powerful attack. I relented, staggering and gasping for air from the effort. If your icy barrier will not fall to my magic, let us see if it answers your own questions. She swung the sword toward me, and the enchanted ice wall. A blinding white light and frigid wind exploded from Waldrick's feet. No! I was thrown back, twisting through the air until I landed painfully against the ice barrier. I heard it crack. It shattered completely, chunks of heavy ice falling all around me. The safe was exposed, and the fairy tear nearly within the Dark Queen's reach. My vision faded in and out as I threatened to lose consciousness. A sound drifted in through the shattered window. The Dark Queen stopped in her tracks. They were war horns outside the city.
The weary and frightened citizens of Elisaria stood gathered outside the city walls. Skylar's thin and flickering magical barrier shielded them from a horde of vicious undead beasts. The young sorceress struggled to maintain her concentration.
I do not think I can keep the spell up. I'm too weary.
She gritted her teeth, and the barrier glowed brighter, then dimmed again and flickered out.
I'm sorry. I failed us.
With the magical shield down, the undead creatures prepared to strike, their decayed snouts bearing sharp teeth. A war horn sounded in the distance, followed by the sound of charging soldiers. The foul beasts turned toward the sound. Out of the swirling, low-lying haze in the woods, dark shapes approached. A banner flew overhead.
It is the Supranational Knights.
The beasts howled and roared as they ran to meet the charging knights in mortal combat. The two sides clashed. The animals' teeth and claws shattered upon the shining armor. Swords came down in bright flashes, cleaving rotted flesh and extinguishing the blue light from the unholy creature's eyes forever.
The Dark Queen loomed over me as I lay prone on the floor of Aldrich's office. My ice barrier had been shattered when she turned my magic against me. The safe, with the fairy tear, was now totally unguarded. I could see the glowing, pearlescent light of the stone, but could not stand or even sit after the stunning force of the Dark Queen's attack. What is this? Though the fairy tear was a mere few feet away, the Queen had halted her approach to listen to the war horns. Henry stirred and crawled to the shattered window. He gazed out. Tears came to his eyes, and he smiled.
Lady Eleanor was successful. She convinced them. They have come.
Who? She stalked over to the window and hurled Henry aside.
Yeah!
The Dark Queen stared out over the city. She scowled. No. I wished that I could see the view for myself. Anything that made her so upset was surely a sight worth beholding. But I had another plan I wanted to put into motion. First, I needed to be able to stand. Every muscle in me strained and throbbed with pain as I again attempted to rise.
A sea of soldiers and knights rushed toward the city from all sides. Banners from Ret, the supranational knights, and nations of the Wall Alliance waved proudly in the air.
Onward! Onward, men! Retake the city!
The armies stormed through the open gates along the city's eastern and western walls. Before long, troops on the inside opened the northern and southern gates as well. There were now no barriers preventing the forces of good from flooding the capital. The armor of the thousands of men pushing toward the palace glistened and gleamed in the light with spectacular brilliance. It was such a marvel to behold that bandits atop the palace ramparts stared at the approaching forces in stunned amazement.
What are you doing? Don't just stand there. Prepare to fight.
Are you daft? We can't fight so many men. Every man for himself.
Bandits scattered and ran, eager to save their skin now that fate had taken an unexpected and, for them, bitterly unwelcome turn. Many had dropped their weapons in favor of stolen goods from the palace. They raced out down into the city streets, but the hasty cowards soon learned this was a terrible mistake. The moment they were in view of the approaching soldiers, arrows rained down on them. Fleeing bandits were killed, sending their ill-gotten gains clattering on the cobblestones. As the troops continued to charge toward the palace, they speedily felled those bandits who rose again with undead life. Not all the bandits were so cowardly, and well over 100 remained on the ramparts, ready to defend the palace they had so recently captured. The Dark Queen's undead warriors were neither fazed nor rattled by the forces barreling toward them. From among the ranks of the armored troops, sorcerers from Ret sent spells hurtling toward the palace ramparts. Combined with volley after volley of arrows, the spells weakened the Dark Queen's front line as the allied soldiers reached the palace grounds. Rose navigated the corridors of the Eastern Palace, retracing her steps. The place had been badly damaged, and so looked nearly unrecognizable to her. She rounded a corner and stepped into something wet. She looked down and discovered a pool of blood and a pair of footprints.
Oh,
Rose took in her surroundings.
wait. This is where Liliana attacked Reginald.
She looked all around for his unconscious body, but he was nowhere to be seen.
He's up and about again.
Rose could not help but look over her shoulder, fearing that Reginald might creep up behind her. He was not there. Still, he could be anywhere in the palace. Swallowing hard, Rose steeled her nerves and hurried onward.
I must make it to Bronwyn and Henry. I must. If only the Foundation will hold out a bit longer. The Dark Queen clutched the windowsill tightly, heedless of the broken glass cutting into her fingers. Her carefully woven plans were beginning to unravel. They will pay. They do not know with whom they trifle. They will fall before my might. The stone is practically in my grasp, but it isn't. I smiled. The Dark Queen whirled around toward me, shock in her eyes. She had been so distracted by the attack below that she had not heard when I crawled to my feet or reached the safe. I held up the fairy tear, and though the power of it burned my hands, I did not mind. It was worth it to see the look of horror spread across her face. It is in my grasp. Instinctively, not knowing if it would work, but praying that it would, I placed the stone onto my crown. The stone snapped onto my crown. A wave of pain coursed through me, starting with my head and continuing all the way down to my fingertips. I feared I had made some grave error, but the pain subsided, replaced by a rush of arcane power. The wounds all around my body mended themselves. I felt bones that I had not realized were broken snap back into position. The energy within me hummed, and I was suddenly filled with pure, unfiltered confidence. The Dark Queen no longer seemed all-powerful or terrifying. Now, we were evenly matched. I will shatter your teeth as I rip that stone from your crown. You can try.
Amidst the moonlit woods, Oscar and Cedrica shared a passionate kiss. A moment of respite before the looming confrontation with the obelisk. As they pulled away, their eyes locked with a shared determination. Fueled by newfound strength, Oscar turned toward the obelisk, ready to end the dark magic threatening Elisaria.
Care to do the honors?
Cedrica smirked at him and approached the obelisk with unwavering resolve. The hum of the dark magic resonated louder, a malevolent melody in the night. She raised her weapon. But before she could strike, a sudden force smashed into her from behind, a cruel interruption to her moment of triumph. She stumbled forward, her weapon slipping from her grasp. She clutched her hand over the back of her head.
Ouch.
Cedrica!
Cedrica slumped to the floor, and Oscar knelt beside her. For a moment, too concerned about her well-being to look up and see the slack-jawed zombie who held a sharp, fat chunk of a tree trunk. Menacing ancient words etched into it and pulsating blue. His eye sockets were hollow, but Oscar felt him staring at him with a piercing gaze. Furious, Oscar leaped up over Cedrica towards the man who knew the way.
Ah!
With one hard tug, Oscar ripped the bottom of the jaw off of the man who knew the way, threw it to the ground, and crumbled the bone with a hard stomp. Oscar looked up at him, his chest heaving with anger and exertion, but the man who knew the way was still. His decaying cheekbones rose up, exposing an arch of the rotting top set of his teeth. His jaw was gone, but he was smiling. The man who knew the way, robbed of coherent speech, emitted bone-chilling screeches that echoed through the enchanted woods. Oscar squared his shoulders, preparing for the one-on-one confrontation that lay ahead.
You are a creature of darkness, but I will release your light.
Fueled by determination, Oscar lunged into battle. Despite his gruesome appearance, the man who knew the way moved with an eerie grace, countering Oscar's every move. The screeches intensified, creating an eerie symphony that underscored the intensity of the struggle. The dark magic that infused the man who knew the way made him a formidable adversary. Each strike Oscar attempted was met with almost supernatural precision, as if the very air conspired against him. Oscar, though valiant, found himself on the defensive, struggling to anticipate the unpredictable movements of his undead foe. The enchanted knight's weapon glowed with an unnatural energy as he pressed the attack. Oscar, determined to protect Cedrica and thwart the dark magic, fought with unwavering resolve. But he started to feel the weight of the confrontation wearing him down. The man who knew the way, relentless, seemed impervious to fatigue. In an attempt to grab the man who knew the way and drag him to the ground, Oscar lunged at him, but was only able to rip off a piece of his armor. He glanced down at it for a moment, and was shocked to see the Elisarian royal crest. The revelation struck Oscar like a bolt of lightning. The once proud knight before him was no stranger. He was one of their own, a citizen of Elisaria turned into this monstrous puppet. The man who knew the way, now exposed, seemed to respond to the revelation. His screeches grew more haunting, an anguished melody of a valiant past lost to the shadows. His decayed limbs moved with an eerie fluidity, his every strike calculated and precise. Oscar countered with a combination of agility and raw strength, but the undead foe proved relentless.
You were once one of us! How did it come to this?
Despite Oscar's inquiry, the man who knew the way remained a silent menace. His empty eye sockets fixed on Oscar with an unsettling focus. Oscar's movements became more sluggish as the battle unfolded, and the undead foe seized the opportunity. With a powerful thrust, the man who knew the way disarmed Oscar, sending his weapon clattering to the forest floor. Oscar staggered backward, struggling to regain his balance against the overpowering force of his undead adversary. The once proud warrior found himself on the brink of defeat. Desperate, he turned to Cedrica as he crawled backward, searching for relief in some corner of the clearing. And, instead of the woman he loved, he saw a majestic owl curled up in a pool of its own blood. She had transformed, and she was crying out in pain. His heart hurt. Suddenly, a chorus of avian cries pierced the air, and a flock of birds descended upon the scene. Members of the bird-headed tribe, each in various avian forms, joined the fray. Their arrival was a timely intervention, a response to Cedrica's distress call, and they attacked the man who knew the way with fierce determination. The man who knew the way, now overwhelmed by the onslaught of the avian tribe, screeched in agony. Feathers flew through the air as the birds relentlessly pecked at the undead foe, delivering justice for the pain he had caused. As the avian tribe relentlessly attacked the man who knew the way, their beaks and talons tore through the dark shroud that enveloped him. A dissonant symphony of squawks and screeches echoed through the woods, accompanied by the agonized wails of the undead foe. Then, in a sudden and unexpected burst of radiant light, the man who knew the way began disintegrating. The very essence of darkness within him fractured and shattered, replaced by an ethereal radiance. In the midst of the chaotic battle, Oscar summoned his last reserves of strength, determined to honor Cedrica's sacrifice. He staggered toward the obelisk that pulsed with dark magic, fueled by the suffering inflicted upon Elisaria.
This ends now.
Oscar's hands glowed with a new-found energy as he approached the obelisk. He struck the dark structure with a mighty swing, channeling all the frustration, grief, and love into a decisive blow. As the obelisk crumbled, the malevolent magic that threatened Elisaria began to dissipate. The avian tribe continued their assault on the man who knew the way, ensuring that justice was served. Once haunted by dark forces, the woods began to regain a sense of tranquility. Exhausted but victorious, Oscar looked around at the avian warriors and the remnants of the obelisk, silently mourning the sacrifice that had made this triumph possible. A blinding brilliance poured forth from the disintegrating form, cascading through the forest like liquid sunlight. The avian warriors, momentarily blinded, shielded their eyes as the radiant energy enveloped them. The light expanded, filling every corner of the woods and dispelling the lingering shadows of malevolence. The once darkened forest now bathed in a warm and healing glow, as if nature itself had reclaimed its purity.
The fight was only increasing in difficulty. Even with our reinforcements, there were too many against us to count. Each enemy that fell rose again as a stronger one, and each ally rose as an enemy. But suddenly, the undead army, relentless in their advance just moments ago, froze in place. A radiant light emerged from the woods and swept across the battlefield. As the light touched each undead soldier, a miraculous transformation unfolded. The dark magic binding them shattered like fragile glass, leaving behind inert bodies. One after another, the undead crumbled, returning to the earth's embrace. The light had cleansed the necromantic stain, leaving only the hushed whispers of the fallen. Amidst the fallen undead, only the Dark Queen and a handful of bandits and prisoners remained. The Queen's composure shifted from arrogance to disbelief as the reality of her defeat settled in. What is this? Her undead forces lay scattered around her, no longer a menace. The survivors, both friend and foe, gazed in astonishment at the unexpected turn of fate. The battlefield, once shrouded in the impending darkness of the undead, was now bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight. Though scarred, the undying had met their end, and the living stood united against the remnants of darkness, clinging to the waning night. The battlefield echoed with the clashing of swords, the thundering of hooves, and the cries of warriors. The Elisarian, supranational knights, wool and rat armies fought with unwavering determination against the undead horde. The living clashed against the seemingly unstoppable forces of darkness. I stood at the forefront of the Elisarian army, my sword gleaming with a resolve to protect my kingdom. The Dark Queen loomed in the distance, her dark presence spreading fear amongst the ranks of the living. The clash of steel and the screams of the fallen reverberated through the air. The Elisarian army, bolstered by the unwavering loyalty of its soldiers, launched a coordinated assault on the undead flanks. Archers, skilled marksmen, sent volleys of arrows into the heart of the enemy, aiming to disrupt their unholy formations.
For Elisaria! For the living! One! Reds! Together we stand!
The combined forces pushed the undead back, creating a temporary lull in the chaos, striking down enemy after enemy. I looked across the battlefield and locked eyes with the Dark Queen. She smiled at me, her beauty itself a threat. Fueled by determination and love, I charged towards her. You will not destroy my kingdom. It is already done, wench. I am now the queen, and you the queen betrayed. Her dark magic surged with each swing of her sword, threatening to overwhelm me. But I drew strength from the love for my people, the memories of the fallen, the resilience that defined Elisaria, and the fairy tale the bravest man I ever knew gave to me. Elisaria will not fall to darkness! I forged beautiful daggers of ice, working to envelop the monster, but she was unyielding and relentless and countered with a barrage of magical attacks. Shadows twisted and writhed. You fight for a kingdom already in ruins. In the chaos of the battle, the Dark Queen, refusing defeat, conjured dark flames in her hands. With a malevolent grin, she sent fireballs hurtling toward the heart of the castle. No! The fiery projectiles struck the castle towers, igniting them in a blazing inferno. The flames climbed the ancient stone walls, devouring everything in their path. My heart sank as I witnessed the destruction of our cherished home. This is for every soul you've ever stolen. Like Aldrich's. With every strike, I could feel the power of Elisaria surging through me. I lunged forward, delivering a swift and calculated blow, aiming for the Dark Queen's exposed flank. The impact reverberated through her, and a pained grunt escaped her lips. And Alexander is next. The trickle of dark blood stained her porcelain thigh as my strike found its mark. The Dark Queen staggered backward, momentarily weakened. Her malevolent laughter turned into a strained hiss as she attempted to regain her footing. With a surge of magic, I conjured a blinding light that engulfed the battlefield. In that moment of illumination, I seized the opportunity to deliver a powerful kick, sending the Dark Queen sprawling to the ground. The impact reverberated through her weakened form, and she let out an agonized cry. Dark tendrils of magic flickered erratically around her. I approached cautiously, my sword poised for the final strike. The weight of the blade felt both empowering and burdensome. Elisaria's destiny hinged on this moment. The ground quivered beneath us as shadows twisted and contorted. I raised my hands, trembling with the realization of my own power, about to deliver the final blow, when I saw the Dark Queen relax and smile at something behind me. I turned and came face to face with one of my own fallen icicles, ready to pierce me through the head. It was held by Reginald, his head badly wounded and soaked with blood.
For my queen!
But before he could strike, he himself was pierced with a sword. My chest was heaving as he fell to the ground. I looked at him and saw that he was pierced with a very strange and familiar sword. A sword I had once gifted. I looked up. Rose? I guess it was not just for beauty. It was the sword I had gifted her at her baby shower. I almost laughed. Thank you. I turned my attention back to the Dark Queen, ready to end her for good. But all I saw was a trail of blood where she'd been crawling, ready to beg me for her life. Where did she go? An enigmatic sound reverberated through the night, a twisted melody. It wasn't a simple laughter or a scream, but an amalgamation, a discordant symphony that toyed with my senses. I strained to decipher its nature, questioning whether it signaled the Dark Queen's triumphant escape, or if it was a foreboding promise of vengeful retribution. The very essence of the Dark Queen lingered in those haunting notes, mocking us from the shadows. Is she truly gone? Or is this a prelude to something darker? The night sky lit up with a massive crack of lightning, hitting the tower where my son once hid. I looked in the direction of the noise, but it merged with the laughter or scream that had emanated from the atmosphere. The crown the Dark Queen had fought to wear, with power, sat among the ashes, in what used to be the throne room. She was gone. So was Elisaria. I stood among the weary and worn, and watched it burn.
Dear listener, this is the last episode of the story. We have rewarded you 100 coins for staying with us till the end. Keep listening to Pocket FM.
The throne she sought is nothing but ashes. The once majestic palace, now reduced to smouldering ruins, echoed with the crackling of flames. I walked through the devastation, the weight of loss heavy on my shoulders. Amidst the chaos, I spotted the dark crown, tarnished and abandoned. Elisaria paid a heavy price for her twisted ambitions. In a moment of fiery determination, I seized the dark crown. Its cold metal seemed to pulse with remnants of the Dark Queen's malevolence. Without a second thought, I hurled it into the heart of the burning palace, condemning it to the same fate as the Queen's aspirations. May the flames cleanse this tainted legacy. As the crown vanished into the inferno, I listened to the foundation of the castle crumble. The sound was both ominous and haunting, as well as freeing. Elisaria, once a beacon of hope and prosperity, now lay in ruins. The battered but resilient people gathered around me, their eyes reflecting the sorrow and determination to rebuild. We will rise from these ashes. Elisaria's people will endure. With a heavy heart, I turned away from the burning remnants of the palace. The road to rebuilding would be long and arduous. But as the smoke billowed into the night sky, a spark of hope flickered within me. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the battlefield, strewn with the aftermath of the fierce conflict. My heart weighed heavy with grief as I moved through the chaos, my steps measured and purposeful. I reached Aldrich's lifeless form, his body a testament to the brutal reality of war. Kneeling beside him, I conjured a layer of shimmering frost, enveloping his body, preserving it from the ravages of decay. You deserve a royal funeral, my king. Standing, my eyes lingered on Aldrich's frozen figure. The weight of loss pressed upon me, but the fire of resilience burned in my gaze. I turned to see Henry limping toward me, holding an unlit torch. Before he reached me, he bent down and touched it to the base of the palace. It lit up. Together we knelt beside Aldrich, holding a flame in his honor. With the help of loyal knights, we found a secluded spot amidst the chaos, away from the immediate battleground, but still under the moon's watchful eye. Here, we'll lay him to rest. A makeshift bier was fashioned from fallen shields and banners. Aldrich's frozen body was carefully placed upon it, still adorned in battle-worn regalia. May the elements cradle you in peace. Surrounded by flickering torches, a small group of soldiers gathered. Rose stood in the distance, her silver hair whipping in the bitter wind. She held her son. I tried to speak, but couldn't. I turned to my husband.
In the name of Elisaria, we bid farewell to her king. hereby known as Aldrich the Great. May the wind carry his valor, the earth embrace his strength, the fire light his eternal path, and the water cleanse his spirit. Rest well, Aldrich. Your sacrifice will be the cornerstone of our victory.
Thank you, Henry. As we paid our respects, a profound stillness settled over the improvised funeral site.
Rose wandered the gardens with her son as the soldiers found their way home. This was her home.
Where do we go, Mummy?
To the country, my love.
She took a deep sigh.
It's time to find a man with a carriage.
Why do you cry, Mummy?
Aldrich, the king, he was my friend.
Rose wiped away a tear and crouched down to Isidore's eye level. She managed a small smile, her eyes reflecting a mixture of sorrow and determination.
We're going to miss him, Isidore.
I can bring him back, Mummy.
Rose's eyes widened, a glimmer of hope breaking through the clouds of grief. She studied her son's innocent face, searching for any sign of the dark magic that had just plagued their lives.
What did you say?
I just know. I can bring people back.
Rose's heart raced at the thought, torn between the desire to see Aldrich once more and the fear that the shadows of their past might return.
Isidore, magic. It's a dangerous thing. We have to be careful.
Rose stared at her son, looking deeply into his eyes. They flickered with light. Or was it darkness?
I sat on the expansive veranda of the countryside home I had been to many times with Aldrich. The last time I'd been here, he fell ill, and I retched at the thought of losing him now. Now here we were, the day of his funeral. I thought of how his eyes would light up when I wore black. I chuckled at the irony. I felt a warm hand on my shoulder.
Tea?
Are you my lady in waiting now?
If it means you'll have me close to you.
My eyes filled with tears, and I gratefully took the cup from him. I knew we would survive, but rebuilding our trust was going to be a journey. Your Majesty, I know how to hold a baby, but an eagle? Tilda struggled with Alexander, who flapped his eagle wings in her embrace.
Give him to me.
Gratefully, Matilda handed the baby eagle over to his father. Suddenly, he was an eagle no more, but once again my delicate little son.
Appreciate the days you can suddenly turn into a naked boy without upsetting everyone in the room, my son.
I choked on my tea at Henry's joke. I welcomed his levity. Life had to go on. I admired the work Schuyler and I had done with my ladies-in-waiting. The estate gardens, transformed into a canvas of royal mourning, showcased the regal decor befitting Aldrich's final farewell. Black and deep blue banners draped the surroundings, bearing the emblem of Elisaria, intertwined with white lilies and blue roses. Tables adorned with silver candelabras stood strategically, each flickering flame casting a warm glow. Elaborate bouquets, a symphony of white lilies and blue roses, graced the table, alongside framed portraits, capturing Aldrich's vibrant moments. The pathways were lined with enchanted lanterns. A regal arch adorned with flowing black and blue fabric marked the entrance. creating a ceremonial passage. A majestic altar carved from white marble stood at the heart of the garden. A large portrait of Aldrich, wearing the regal attire that defined his reign, rested on it.
There are only 12 seats, my love.
I highly doubt so many people will travel to such a remote location after the battle they just endured.
Think again.
He pointed to the other side of the courtyard, where it looked like my ladies-in-waiting were trying to manage hordes of people. As I gazed across the courtyard, my eyes widened in disbelief. The once tranquil gardens were now bustling with a diverse assembly of individuals. Ambassadors from distant lands, citizens of Elisaria, and wounded soldiers who bore the scars of the recent battle, all converged in a display of unexpected unity. Adorned in their respective traditional attires, the ambassadors presented a tapestry of cultures and alliances. Some bore stoic expressions, others shared sympathetic glances, all here to pay their respects to a fallen leader. Elisarian citizens, clad in sombre attire, moved gracefully through the garden. Their presence spoke of a collective grief that transcended borders. They carried with them tokens of gratitude and remembrance, adding to the growing memorial for Aldrich. Wounded soldiers, their wounds still fresh, moved with resilience and determination. Many leaned on crutches or were supported by comrades. Each step a testament to their shared sacrifice on the battlefield.
They've come to honor Aldrich and stand by Elisaria.
My heart swelled with gratitude and sorrow. The unexpected gathering symbolized a shared acknowledgement of the impact Aldrich had on the realm and beyond. The once remote location became a convergence point for mourning and unity, a testament to the interconnectedness of our world. I scanned the room with amazement. Among the attendees were Oscar and Cedrica. He held her more gingerly than I had ever seen him touch anything, careful not to disturb what were her near-fatal wounds. A cloaked woman I knew was Viscountess Emilia in the back corner of the courtyard, holding young Beatrice. Rose was on the other side, looking longingly but afraid to approach, holding Isidore's hand. She wore a bright green dress, and I smiled and shook my head. At least I had come to appreciate her style. People stood in a crowd, and as the murmurs dissipated, they looked up at me, ready to hear what I had to say. I fastened the crown more securely on my head and touched the fairy tear lightly for good measure. I took a deep breath. Friends, allies, and honored guests, today we come together to bid farewell to a beloved leader and celebrate the life of a man who exemplified the true essence of leadership. Aldrich was more than a king. He was my dear friend, a devoted partner and a compassionate soul who dedicated his life to the prosperity of Elisaria. He understood the weight of the crown and the responsibility that came with it. We remember his laughter that echoed through the palace halls, the warmth of his embrace that offered solace in our darkest moments, even the ones he caused, and the unwavering dedication he had for each and every citizen of Elisaria. King Aldrich's legacy is not just one of leadership, but of love. Love for our country, love for its people, a love that transcends the boundaries of time and space. As we say our goodbyes, let us carry his spirit forward. Let us honor his memory by continuing the work he began, and by fostering unity and compassion in the face of adversity. I looked out at the crowd, at my people. Elisaria stands resilient, and so do we. In Aldrich's absence, let us find strength in each other, knowing that the bonds we share will carry us through the challenges ahead. We may have lost a king, but his spirit lives on in the heart of our nation. Thank you, King Aldrich, for your unwavering devotion, your selfless love, and the legacy of compassion you leave behind. May you find eternal peace in the embrace of the heavens. I took a moment to gather myself and hold back my tears. In the tapestry of life, we encounter threads of love, heartbreak, and power. Love, the force that binds us, that gives us our existence, purpose, and meaning. Love is not without its trials. It brings joy and sorrow, laughter and tears. In the vast landscape of our emotions, we navigate the intricacies of the heart, weaving a story that defines us. As I stand here, I am reminded that love endures, transcending the boundaries of life and death. Yet intertwined with love is heartbreak, the pain that accompanies loss, the ache of parting from those we cherish. Heartbreak, too, is a testament to the depth of our connections, a reminder that love, in its bittersweet beauty, leaves an indelible mark on our souls. I touched my crown again. And then there is power, a force that shapes destinies and influences the course of nations. True strength lies not in the ability to control, but in the capacity to empower and inspire. As we mourn the passing of a leader, let us reflect on the lessons of love, heartbreak, and power. May we embrace love with open hearts, face heartbreak with resilience, and wield power with a sense of responsibility. For in the grand tapestry of existence, our stories are intertwined. And through the trials of love and the challenges of power, we find the essence of our shared humanity. May the threads of our lives be woven with compassion, understanding, and the enduring legacy of those who came before us. I looked into the crowd and locked eyes with Henry, who looked up at me with awe. "Come, stand beside me, my king." Henry got up to stand beside me, but to my surprise, he knelt before me.
I kneel before the queen of our humble realm.
Henry, what? But before I could finish, the rest of the attendees followed suit.
May your reign be a beacon of hope, a testament to the enduring power of love, and a legacy that echoes through the annals of our history.
To the Queen of the Realm!
To the Queen of the Realm!
We will never betray you!
A lone tear started to fall down my cheek. Without thinking, I froze it and tossed it aside. It was not time to cry. It was time to reign.
Dear listener, this is the last episode of A Queen Betrayed. Thank you for being a part of this exciting journey.